When we think of innovation, we think about occurring spontaneously. We think about entrepreneurs innovating for the purpose of generating more revenue, for attracting more sales or cutting costs. So we think of it as arising somehow naturally. Entrepreneurship comes into existence, innovative managers or innovative personnel within the organization see new ways of cutting costs or of working or of designing the final product that goes on the market. But in fact, it's often the case that innovation is factored in to the management routines, and that management will have a set of procedures to undertake in order to evaluate innovation and innovative ideas. And sometimes these are caught up in the innovation business case, a more formal procedure in looking at innovation to see whether the business should go ahead with it or alter it or perhaps leave it and attempt something different. So it's a way of appraising an innovation idea. So an innovation case is constructed. A business case is a working document which is used to communicate to key business decision makers on the merits of a new or innovative project. In other words, it's not as spontaneous as we previously suggested. It may be that there is an idea. The idea may come about spontaneously. Someone looks at the project and looks at the product or looks at the processes and thinks there's a better way. But then it must be argued. The management team must be on board. They must see the advantages and adopt the advantages and fund them indeed. So in order to achieve that, a business document is required. The business document stating what the innovation proposal is, its merits, its costs, the downsides, the risks. It goes through all of the various parts associated with the proposal. So it's not like we've seemed to suggest in many of the videos where someone gets a good idea and goes off and tells somebody else, and after a while it's magically adopted by the business. In fact, most businesses have a process in order to evaluate the cases, and this is normally done through the business case document. An innovative business case is developed during the initial stages of a new product or service or process. So there's a new idea from the innovator stroke entrepreneur, and as I said, that is developed and written up as a document with the various parts associated with risks, costs, advantages, and so on. A poorly developed case can jeopardize any potential investment opportunities. If the case is not well argued, then it may not be funded. It's a question in the document of demonstrating the advantages of the proposed change to the reader, but also explaining the commercialization aspect, which is central to the whole process of innovation. After all, it's commercialization that differentiates innovation from invention. So it's demonstrating the commercialization of the idea, the monetary advantage. And that is by also having an honest document which specifies the constraints, specifies the resources required, the retraining that may be needed, the skills, the competencies that need to be instilled in the workforce, the changes in the structure, whatever they are. So all of this must be taken into account. And there is a risk that must also be taken into account, that the customers may not entirely agree with the change. So the case has to be well argued, has to be well set out. The need for a business case arises due to the following. It's a requirement, perhaps. A business case could arise because it's a requirement. This could be changes in the law or the introduction of new legislation and regulations, which results in an organisation's need for change. Sometimes that could be written up as a document. There's no choice about it. The law demands that this product has certain features, perhaps safety features. And therefore the change is forced on the organisation. But again, even though it's been forced on the organisation, a document is needed that will specify the costs, the benefits, the downsides, the training, the retraining, the new equipment. All of that must be specified. It might be an existing problem. There could be a problem within the organisation that prevents growth. For example, poor revenue sources or ineffective distribution channels or inadequate customer services or ineffective processes. Any of these could be inhibiting growth. So it's imperative that the document addresses whatever it is that's holding back the company from growing and looks at innovation, looks at the changes that can be brought about in the product that will enhance the reputation of the business in the marketplace and generate more sales or cut the costs of production. So in the business case, there may be an issue of highlighting an existing problem and trying to address that existing problem. It might be business opportunities. There may be business opportunities that can be exploited. For example, a new innovative idea that will generate more revenue through entry into new markets, launch new products and services, under development of business processes which reduce costs and fully utilize technology. There are many opportunities, perhaps, that face the organization, but in the past there was a reticence on the part of the management to deal with these, to adopt them. But perhaps an innovator will lead the organization into new markets where there are new opportunities, not just for additional sales, but perhaps as a valuable source of new ideas, a sort of a cross-fertilization between markets, so that ideas from the other market can flow into the first market, and the first market into the second market, and so on. And in this way, the business will grow and prosper. So whatever it is that is leading to the need for a business case, these core factors must be identified and stated in the case before the actual innovation itself is specified, and then going on to talk about that innovation and its ups and downsides. The purpose of a business case is to gain support for a specific business project and is used to communicate to decision makers and investors the benefits of the project. So it's a means of communication. It's a way of writing down and articulating the advantages of the proposed change, and therefore can form the basis of a discussion. Where resources and money are concerned, a compelling business case must be developed to address a business need which discusses both quantifiable and non-quantifiable characteristics of the business case. It's often the situation that when documents within business are specified, there is a run towards quantification, because somehow quantification is hard. Quantification seems like solid evidence. But in fact, when we discuss entrepreneurship and when we discuss innovation, we realize that a feeling is what generates the new idea. It's an insight into the use of the product or an insight into the process. It's a feeling about it. that it can be improved or changed or altered or marketed differently. So both quantifiable, in other words, hard evidence, if it's available in terms of facts and figures, but also non-quantifiable, people's opinions about the proposed change, whether they accept it or reject it, or what they see as the advantages or disadvantages. These must be specified. An example for a business case could be a new product launch to meet a particular target market. So perhaps someone, the innovator or the entrepreneur within the business, will propose a new product or a new service. But that then will need to be argued. The risk factors associated with that need to be assessed. Opinions sought about the likely success of the idea. Perhaps focus groups need to be called in and their opinions sought. In other words, the whole process needs careful attention before this business case document is assembled and presented for consideration. Business cases are developed for the following reasons. Establish a framework for planning and organizational change. Within the business case document, there should be a framework for planning and organizational change. Because if they're going to change the product, the chances are they're going to have to change part of the organization. Perhaps the chain of command, who's responsible who is the manager, what's the span of control for the manager, what is the... looking at the whole organization, looking at the way the organization is currently structured and the changes that are going to be necessary. And these need to be articulated. The document provides details of resources and how they will be utilized. It must specify what's required in order to produce this product. And it must specify how those resources will be utilized. What are the needs of the business? What does the business require? It's important that the business should have an attitude towards innovation, which is accepting. It should not be the case that the document has to persuade, at least entirely persuade. There should be goodwill on the part of the management and an acceptance of the need for innovation. Just a particular innovation needs scrutiny. The management may be entirely pro-innovation, but this particular innovation, the one that's been proposed in the business case document, may not be the right one. And the fact that the management are against it, perhaps in the end, doesn't mean that they're against innovation. So it needs to look at the needs of the business. Does the business need to innovate urgently? Are its product lines getting out of date? Are they getting tired? And it needs to make the case that new products are introduced. And so, in other words, this document is going to take management through the journey from the original idea, the original innovative idea, right through to delivery. What are the expected benefits of the innovation? How does it complement the organization strategy? That's important. It's important that the benefits of the innovation are clearly stated, because that's why the innovation is being proposed in the first place. It's been proposed so that benefits will be derived by the organization. So it's important to emphasize them, but also to emphasize the assumptions upon which the projected benefits are calculated. So discuss the assumptions that underpin the calculations and leave nothing to the management to have to work on. It should be done for the management. All of the assumptions, the explicit and even the implicit assumptions, the ones that are lying behind the scenes, all of these should be exposed and discussed so that a clear picture is presented in the business case. Look at the factors that would ensure a successful outcome. Specify the factors that would ensure a successful outcome and see to what extent they're in place at the moment or could be put in place. What needs to be done to bring about a successful outcome? What external resources will be utilised? This could be collaboration with other companies or alliances or arrangements with suppliers. What sort of external resources will be used? What funding options are available and would costs be affordable? It may be a very good idea, but is it economic? In other words, is it financially sound? Will it generate a profit? What are the probability or the probabilities of it failing or succeeding? Will it cover the investment? Try to estimate what the market size is, what the effect of the innovation will have on the market and on sales, and try to work out what the return on this investment would be. And how would it be delivered? What marketing channel would be used? How would the customers be communicated with? But also, how will the product itself be delivered? Will it go through warehouses or wholesalers or retailers, or will it go directly to the public? Or depends critically on, of course, the nature of the product and the nature of the business. It could be a business supplying some capital goods, which will go directly to companies as part of their capital structure. But it depends. But what exactly will be the arrangements for delivering the product, and how will that be organized? So it's a complete document. It starts at the idea for the product and it finishes with the delivery of the product. And everything in between is argued and well set out. Also, what risks are involved and how will they be mitigated? The product may fail. The innovation may fail. The proposed product may be acceptable for some period of time and then dwindle away. So, what are the risks involved in developing this product? Now, the structure of a business case. Well, there's the overall summary of the business case. This should be written last. So there should be an executive summary at the start, but a summary also appears at the end. And not at the end of the document, but right throughout the document, each part should be concluded. The executive summary should be written at the end in so far as at that stage the writer will know what's in the document and will be in a better position to write the executive summary. But each section itself should be self-contained almost. It should be written and concluded. There should be an end to each part. Don't leave any ideas hanging around. Don't leave something in the air. Try to justify and explain everything so there are no questions from the reader. But the executive summary is at the start of the document, and that, as I said, should be written last because at that stage the writer knows what's in the rest of the document and is in a better position to write a good executive summary. A summary is just normally a page or perhaps 2 pages at most, talking about what the proposal is and what the project went through in its analysis and what its conclusions were. Then go on to the introduction. Introduce the business case, outline the key details. Why is there a business case? What is the proposal? Why is the proposal being put forward? Briefly, what advantages and what downsides can be anticipated in the development of this product or this process, and what are the advantages as well, of course, as I just said. Now, all of that should go into a short introduction. But really, the need for this change should be set out in the introduction so that the reader knows why there is a business case to read, why there is a business case in front of him or her. Next, a statement of the problem. Discussion stating the problem. How does the problem links to organization strategy and the importance to the organization? So what is the problem at the moment? Why is there a proposal for a change? Is the existing system defective? In what way is it defective? And in what way will this proposal fix it and make it better? So again, a statement of what's wrong at the moment, so leading to this proposal, and how this proposal will address that problem. Then an analysis, a discussion of the problem and why it should be resolved. This may involve statistics, the analysis of data, reason, impact for the problem, and evidence in support of the case. So the analysis is looking at all the points that have been forward about the case, the points for it, the points against it, and trying to argue which one dominates, which one is predominant in that write-up. Is it the case that change wins and therefore the document is in favour of the change, or is it the case, having done the analysis, that the existing product should be kept? It's a question of honesty. The fact that a business case has been written to make a proposal for change, if the evidence subsequently emerges that the existing product or process is probably the best, then that should be stated and that should be in the business case. Honesty is the best policy. Look at possible alternatives. An analysis of viable options, including the benefits, costs, timescale, and risks for each option. So don't just put forward perhaps one solution, put forward several solutions. And that could form the basis of a discussion on the part of management, trying to work out which one is best. And they may eventually call for separate documents to look at different proposals so as they can work out which one is best. But look at different alternatives. And then make recommendations. But also don't just state the recommendations, argue the recommendations. In other words, justify them. Look at the evidence. Look at the points that were made, and then state the preference of the writer and why the preference of the writer is the way it is. What supports the case? What rules out the alternatives? So it's a well-argued document. Seven is the selection of suitable options. Develop a plan for chosen options, and look at the goals, the cost analysis, the timescale, the project planning and management outcomes. Look at success criteria, how you judge success. Look at the resource requirements and the risk analysis. In other words, a big section stating that this particular proposal, all of these areas need to be looked at. But also make the argument that the evidence seems to suggest that this is a good idea or that's a bad idea, that a focus group were in favour of this and against that. And so again, management has got evidence in favour and against different points. And again, it's easy for them to read the document and forming their own opinions, which may be the basis of subsequent meetings and a call for subsequent documentation, subsequent research before a final decision is made. And then, of course, the conclusion, details of outcomes and results. In other words, what is the conclusion of the business case? To make the change or not make the change. So a business case is a document. It's a document related to, let's say, an innovation, a proposed innovation. Before it's adopted by the organisation, it needs to be argued. It needs to be justified and considered and discussed. And the basis for that discussion will be a business case, which is a written document with different sections in, being as honest as is possible, looking at the evidence only, looking at the suggestion, looking at the impact, the likely impact of the change on the organisation, and arguing its desirability or otherwise, depending on how the evidence has come to light during the preparation of the business case. As I said, being honest and submitting the document for management scrutiny and ultimately a decision. So innovation just doesn't happen. The idea is spontaneous for innovation. That just happens, it occurs to somebody that the company could do certain things to improve production or to improve the product. And that is spontaneous, that just happens. It's an act of imagination. But once the idea is there, it now needs traditional skills of analysis, of reasoning, of research, of thinking, of criticism, and all of these are contained in the business case document. And that's all we're going to deal with in this one. So let's leave it at that and say thank you for watching.